Welcome to Quantum Quest Conversations. I'm your host, Megan,
And I'm your host, Heidi.
the podcast where curious conversations lead the way into awakening, growth, and infinite discovery. Whether you're just beginning your quest or deep in your awakening, you'll find inspiration through stories, lessons, and personal experience. Settle in, open your heart, and let curiosity lead the way. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Quantum Quest Conversations with Megan and Heidi. Today, we have the beautiful soul, Deanna Davis. She's an energy healer, a spiritual guidance life coach, a psychic medium, and she helps with wealth creation. She specializes in emotional and body coding, which is all about identifying and releasing trapped emotions and energy blocks in the body. If you're not familiar with it, we are going to learn all about it today and hopefully be experts. And hopefully, you will be inspired to book a session with Deanna after this call. So, welcome, Deanna, and thank you for talking with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
We're delighted to have you and learn from you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, as I mentioned, you are an energy healer, and some of our listeners might not know what an energy healer means. And definitely, I know like emotional and body coding was brand new to me. I remember the first time I heard it, I'm like sitting there Googling as the lady was talking about it. I was like, what is this? I need to, find out what it is. And then to discover that you do it was really cool. So, can you tell us how you got into it?
Yes, I actually started with Reiki, and I started with Reiki 1 and 2. But the energy healing part of it, it's just such a natural way to touch base with the body, and it's just a way to bring balance. And so my curiosity started with Reiki, and I was actually a physical therapist and practicing in different various settings, like the acute care and also outpatient therapy. And so, learning Reiki, I would quietly practice on my patients that I would have some one on one time. If they were, open to it, I would just use my hands and just bring some energy healing along with their traditional treatment plan of care. And they really liked it. People responded really well. And also, I noticed in like the um, hospital setting, like intensive care with certain of my clients, patients who were really, they were preparing to pass, really. Uh,
Yeah.
but I did use some Reiki on them, just laying of hands type of thing. And I noticed that they responded too.
Mhm.
Not in a way that they were, not going to die. They clearly were, but it does bring just, a little bit of energetic comfort or something. So, I loved that. I loved how people responded, and I loved how it made me feel as well. So fast forward after leaving the physical therapy profession,
Mhm.
I just wanted to get a little more into it. And that's when I found the body code, the emotion code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And so it was kind of the next step for me. I wanted to go a little deeper and learn something new. So that's kind of how I ended up doing body code and emotion code.
How old were you when all this started unfolding for you?
You mean the recognition of energy healing and that?
Right.
Well, I was pretty young. When I was probably about 12, I actually saw spirit. I saw a lot of energy movement. I would have really profound dreams of uh, loved ones telling me to give messages and different things like that. So I was always sort of, had that inclined to recognize and to acknowledge that there is something different, something un, unknown, unseen, and my family was always sort of open to it too, so it's kind of started young. And I really didn't grasped more of the spiritual aspect of it until after I left physical therapy. But for me in my journey, the next best thing was to become a physical therapist so I could actually do something for others. It was my way of being in service for others and to help and be in the healing, because that's what it is. So just one thing sort of led to the other. So that's,
That's amazing that you were 12 years old and like recognized it and your family supported you. Like it's crazy, we all just have different stories and it's cool to hear the background of how this all came about.
yeah.
Can you go into like a more in depth about the emotional coding and the body coding of exactly like how it works? So I actually had a session with you and my mind was blown how fast you were with it. Would you say it's like a psychic connection, or how would you say that you're connecting with the person that you're doing it for?
I believe any type of healing work, if it's done right, I believe it is always there's a psychic connection always with it. Because psychic blends in with the energetic portion or the aura of the person you're working with. And so there's no getting around it. There's no working without it. So it is very psychic. The emotion code and the body code, as I said, developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson. That's working with trapped emotions that tend to settle in a person's energetic field. Okay, so we know that we're all energy. Everything is energy. Every single thing, including this hard chair I'm sitting in,
Yeah.
and so it responds with the energy of the outside forces of the universe when you bring those in. So everything just works together. So with the body code and emotion code, there's instances where, for example, if you were a child in school and some kid was bullying you and calling you ugly and calling you this and that or whatever, those harsh emotions can just settle. They go into the subconscious mind and it becomes true to you. Okay, so and that's a whole nother episode, the difference of the, conscious and subconscious mind. But sometimes, a lot of times we deal and we process different emotions that come in. They don't settle like that. But there's other ones that are more difficult that do settle, and then they affect the way our life goes. It affects our health, our thoughts, our, the manifesting of our everyday world. It really comes into play with that. So the body code, the emotion code is designed to detect those hidden subconscious mind emotions and release them. So it doesn't erase the memory of those, because you can't erase your experiences, but what you can do is make them less impactful so they don't affect your spiritual body, your energetic body so much. So that's
So could you walk us through how a visit will work? Like how it will look for a person?
Mhm. Yeah, so a session, the first session usually lasts a little bit longer, but in general, they're probably, around 30-35 minutes in length, just putting it out there. It's not a long session. But what happens is, you first connect with your client, and it can be done online. So that's the beauty of working with anything these days. You can do it online, and it's still very effective. But you connect with them spiritually, psychically, and you then look for the emotions that are to address a certain issue that they come to you for. Say someone, doesn't know why their work is not going well, or they can't get the right job, or they're not feeling well, they're sick all the time. So they usually come with an issue like that. And then we through it's called it's a like a oh gosh, you just through the psychic part of it is when you do find an emotion, you work through a chart, different charts, and then you use kinesiology is the word I was looking for. So it's kind of a quick muscle test for a yes or no. The same thing could be done with like a pendulum or whatever, but it takes a little longer. So when you're with a client, you want to kind of work through some of these things quickly. So, say we're working together and there's an emotion that comes up that is fear. We'll say that. And so I check quickly, yes, no, yes. So I get the yes or no, whether if that's is the one, or we keep working down to find a specific detailed emotion. And when that's found, a lot of times the client resonates with it, or will say, I think that is, or sometimes it doesn't resonate, but it doesn't necessarily have to, because they're so some of them are so deeply ingrained and not really understood. So it's just bringing them out gently, releasing them. They actually use a magnet, and a magnet is just a way of setting intention to the release. And the release is through using the governing meridian of the body. So, it's an interesting way of discovering certain emotions and different blocks that are stopping, a person from being able to move forward in their life or get over a trauma, so it's quite the process, and it really is difficult to just bring it all forward in just a few sentences, but the whole thing is just dealing with the subconscious mind you know
So I was thinking about like what you were just saying. So when I did it with you, you were able to pull up like a vaccine, which like that went over my head. I was like, what is blocked?
yeah
Can you explain that, and if there's other ones that are like kind of stand out as like to me that it's not necessarily like an emotion, or but
yeah yeah well, everything is energy, as we know, right? So the
yeah,
food you eat, the medications you take, all of those affect the human energetic body. So there's always, consequences to taking in things.
yeah,
And so those can create a layer of blockage too. So it's just removing, and I know it's really unusual to think of that. Oh my gosh, I've got and those are the low-hanging fruits. Okay, I'll mention that the foods and the vaccines and medications, recreational drugs, even, those are all the low-hanging fruits that you can clear away that energy response from them to get to the deeper layers of the subconscious mind. So you might have heard the term a lot in different energy workers with them. It's like peeling the skin of an onion, right? Same kind of concept with that. You're just kind of getting, you deeper, you get the more surface problematic things. You deal with those first, and then you go deeper down.
So I'm thinking, like in Reiki, you ask the person if they have an intention to say why they are there, what they want to heal. But with body coding, is pretty much you go deep and you try to find the answers that they don't even know of issues they have, right? That's the difference.
Correct. 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 Yes. It's almost like this, it's like this body, this mind mystery, because the mind is such a mysterious thing. I mean, let's face it, nobody really knows. When I ask you what the mind looks like, 99% of the time someone will say, well, it's the brain. Looks like the brain, the mind is the brain, but the brain is an organ, just another organ like the kidneys and, the heart. The mind is made of you have your conscious and you have your subconscious mind. The conscious mind we think, we have, and you think of the conscious mind as this thing with feelers and sensors where all the incoming stuff is always coming in, right? You get all the TV news, you get all the, input from family and friends and all of that. And then there's a subconscious mind, or that's more like our deep intuitive self, our higher self, which you don't see, you don't recognize, but you have moments of, that inner voice, and you have moments of intuition, and you have those moments of, some psychic synchronicity happens. That's your subconscious mind that, is much more deep, and it's more of a part of who our entire soul self is. So, it's quite it's quite intriguing when you are working with someone and you bring up really old emotions that were long experienced, but are ones that are still playing havoc on your daily existence. So I hope I answered your question with that, and I kind of went a little more in depth.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but it's something to take note, because we all are trying to achieve something greater in our lives, and there's always something that is in the way somehow. And so that's when you start exploring, okay, where is this block? Because no matter what I do, it's not clearing up. And so that's when, a practitioner with the body code or emotion code can go deeper for you, and, you know, pull those things forward and just lay them to rest, really. So the body code is more about finding these trapped emotions in areas of the body. So somebody with physical issues, um, you know, this could be helpful and so the emotion code is dealing with the emotions of a person. That could also include, a heart wall or emotions around someone's heart that's stopping them from experiencing the full rightful love that we can have in life. So, and there's other things about that too, but so it's sort of just kind of happens like that.
Yeah, can you explain that more?
Yeah, well, with the over the last couple years I've been doing this, I've noticed that with maybe, a certain amount of treatments, and sessions, that there's still something there for them. Like it's the client, that it's not quite coming to fruition the way they want, or they're not feeling what they want to feel. And a lot of times it's because they've built a heart wall. And so, what a heart wall is just protective. We all have it, we all experience it, protective emotions around our heart. And it's a useful thing, it's not a bad thing, so we sometimes need it, but there's comes a time in one's life where it's time to release it too,
Mhm.
if your soul body's ready for it. So, you can't, with a heart wall, it's a little bit more um uh protective, a little more, I proceed with that with a little more caution, because it was there for that protective mechanism for that person, and it's not always the best interest for them to remove. So, but you can check, through the muscle testing if you can proceed with it, if it's okay to release some of the heart wall. And that's how you test. You continually test with, the kinesiology, muscle testing, and psychic. Okay. And so that's how that's, I hope that makes sense, but that's how,
Yeah.
that's how it's released. And I've
Yeah.
seen like layers, like 25 to 30 layers, heart wall layers in clients. So it can go that deep,
Yeah.
depending on what their life experience has been so far.
And the older the person, the thicker the layer, right? Because there's so much going on in one's life. Like, what would you think or ask to a person with, in my case, I have fibromyalgia?
Well, you know, what happens really is, say you come to me and I ask you, okay, Haiti, what are your concerns? What do you want to work on? And you say, okay, Deanna, this fibromyalgia, I really want to get down to it. I really want to see if I can help heal it. Okay. And I said, okay. All right. So let's keep that in mind. But what actually happens is your own spiritual guidance comes in and brings forward through this treatment what needs to come forward first. And it's never black and white. It's never, okay, Haiti, this specific emotion is, for fibromyalgia. Okay, it actually makes you go deeper and deeper and deeper to find associated imbalances that over time contributed to that fibromyalgia. So there's always, layers of things that over time had contributed to that illness in a person. And you can never always connect the dots. Sometimes you can, but usually when you start going, when a emotion has manifested into a physical condition, it's always so much more than that. You always go so much more deeper, and find out how this thing was building to get to this point. You know what I mean? So it's quite the process. I encourage it. I do it for myself also. It's almost like a maintenance sessions that I have for myself.
Definitely become your patient. Yes.
I would love for you to be.
It's interesting, I mean, how this whole thing works. Because again, I said I did do a session, or multiple sessions with you actually. And it's interesting how our bodies respond and do your little thing, like the yes nos to go a little bit deeper. And sometimes it would just be like you were talking about the onion peeling. Like one time it was like the very first layer and my body was like ready to release it. And then there's other times where you're like, is she ready? No, we got to go deeper. Oh, no, we got to figure it out. No, she doesn't understand. Okay, we got to like, and you were very, very fast with it of just, okay, let's see, let's, keep going deeper, and how you could just really pinpoint. And sometimes it was like, okay, she's ready to release it. Nope, she's not. Do we need to talk about this more? You also are a life coach. And I think that plays a hand in it too, because you were able to also give like advice about like writing affirmations, getting, the emotions that I was ready to release, like as we went through the process and we're like, okay, she is ready to release this emotion. And we did the releasing of it. Afterwards, you had given me some advice to write some of these emotions down and just like burn them and write, affirmations to myself to just kind of heal myself. Man, that was so powerful. Like that little ceremony I had for myself, afterwards to release it and then to just kind of boost myself back up with the affirmations. I just want to say thank you. And I'm sure your patients probably, or I don't know if you'll call them clients, but, you know, do you want to talk a little bit about how like the life coaching kind of goes hand in hand with the body coding?
I honestly think what happens there is, you become so spiritually connected to the person you're working with.
Hmm.
And when you're in that psychic realm with them, you're in this soul to soul energy, just this beautiful combination together,
Hmm.
that the insights like that come, and they're coming from not only your guides, and for those who believe in spirit guides and our helpers, and if you don't believe, I hope someday in some way along your path it does come forward for you, and then you believe, because it is part of this. It's not me. It is divine source. It is divine healing power of our God source, or the great spirit, or whatever you want to call it, um, that the healing takes place, and the advice, the loving advice, comes for others. And I know both of you are psychic as well, and you do psychic work with others, and you know what I mean. It is always done in divine guidance and upliftment for
Yeah.
others, and that's the whole point of doing any type of energy work like this, is to help uplift. I'm not the great healer, I'm not anything. I'm really a person who wants to help and wants to be at service to others, and I allow that spiritual alignment to come forward, so it can, for the highest and greatest good of the person in front of me. And so that is all really, the life coaching. I don't anymore go by any part of that. Everyone's in charge of their own life coaching, really, and when done in an intuitive self, when you're connected intuitively to yourself, your higher self, you're your own life coach. You don't need, I mean, there's of course, with doing this, the work that I do or whatever, I can maybe lead you somewhere that might, open an awareness, which is, by golly, the best outcome ever, but as far as the life coaching, we're our own life coaches, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, but it's good to have some help sometimes because I think we can have blinders on
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
that's sure.
and we can have these blockages that, we don't even really know about. And I think what's cool about calling yourself like a coach kind of it, like I think all of us could probably consider ourselves coaches of like we are 100% rooting people on. Like we want everyone to succeed and heal and just live their, life's purpose. And so I think we can, be considered coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to put that out there, like in that way, um, just, for empowerment too, I love that there's people like you and Haiti and myself and so many others in this entire universe that are putting themselves out there to help, the healing process. That's what we should be doing for each other, you know. And in the same part of that aspect of that is understanding our own power,
Mhm.
and knowing that you have the power to heal yourself and just to do amazing things, so
Yeah.
And so when did mediumship start coming into play in your life?
mediumship started for me. It was a little bit after I saw actually a spirit manifest in front of me when I was young. I was 12, I guess 12 years old. I saw a spirit. I believe it was my grandfather. Um, but then after that, it was all dream in the dream state. I would, loved ones would come with messages, and then I became increasingly more interested in going to mediums. I just loved what they did. And I always wished I could do that, but never thought of myself as that, you know.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't really until I started practicing the body code and emotion code when I was tapping in so strongly psychically with others, I would suddenly get, a loved one would come. I would, in my mind's eye, as clear as, day, a person, oh, for example, someone's mom came. I described them. I'm like, is your mom on the other side? And I'm like, does she look like this and this? She's really happy. And the client at the time said, you described her perfectly. And then it just started happening. I was doing healing sessions, and all of a sudden, someone's dad in a jogging suit would like flash through, and then we'd talk about that. And so I started connecting that way. And I thought, well, there's something, okay, so there's something really happening here. Let me check this out. So I started taking classes, learning a little bit more about mediumship, and it just kind of went from there. It blossomed in such a natural way that it was not forceful. It was just this natural progression for me.
Yeah. I know when you did the session on me that my dad was there, and I think my grandma, I don't remember. I know, like you said, my guides were there. But yeah, I mean, it was almost like you said, you explained, like they're just here for support, like moral support. They've they've come through.
Mhm.
So that it was really comforting, and really cool that you were able to bring them through when you did it. So what is your plan with mediumship? Are you gonna do that separately or try to combine it with the coding, or what's your thoughts?
I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards mediumship, but what I'm going to do, I think what the best thing to do is just kind of just go with what my client needs,
Mhm.
because it could be they need, psychic work, or, maybe they're experiencing something they need, some energy work, the body code, or maybe part of that healing would be more beneficial with a mediumship, reading. So I'm just going to, for now, just leave it open and see, what transpires out of it, because I'm still in the development phase of mediumship. Uh,
Mhm.
I love it. It almost feels like I've come home, if you know what I mean. It's like,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of different things in my life, some not spiritual and other, with healing and that. But this really feels like I've arrived home for some reason. That's just the
Yeah.
feeling. So my current plans is really just to blend it all,
Mhm.
and keep it for the need of the client, whatever that could be.
And I think that's what's like starting to happen more often with, psychic and mediums and spiritual guidance, life coaches and all that is I think what we're finding, and I know I definitely did, is that yeah, everyone is unique. And I think like I don't know, this is my own personal opinion, but like we're kind of moving away from I think the old school like mediumship of like so much evidence, because I think a lot of people like believe already. I think we're starting, and I'm not like, but we are, I think, making a shift of like where it's more normal to go to a medium or a psychic. And I don't think it's like where you have to like have so much evidence and like you had to prove to someone that this is real. I mean, most people I feel like we're finding that reach out are people that already believe in it. and that they are looking for like a deeper like message, and usually yeah something to do with like guidance, you know, for their life. And I think that's cool what you said of yeah, leaving it open and kind of just let spirit kind of guide the way of what does this person need. Do they need body coding? Do they need a loved one to come through to kind of like add extra support to be like this is you know this is true, or some kind of like maybe healing from a loved one that can come through and be like, you know, maybe they had something to do with the emotion that's being released, and then you know it can kind of go hand in hand. um but I think that this is going to be the new age thing, and what's really, I know I'm struggling with it, is like finding words to describe what you do, because people want to be like what are you or what do you do, and it's just like, you know, we do have these different abilities of the psychic and the mediumship, and just I mean really just a healer, like trying to heal people. And I'm not like, I don't think we're trying to toot our own horns or anything, but kind of like what you said earlier, but this is, you know, kind of what we've been given and to help people. And that is what, you know, our journey is supposed to be about, is helping people. So having that open mind. Uh,
Exactly. I really like how Tony Stockwell put it. Attended a course of his a few days ago, and he brought it to all of us like this, the people who are in this line of work, psychic, intuitives, and mediumship, we're seers of light, all of us. And
mhm.
when a seer of light sees a lot of things in a lot of different ways, and when you try to bring them into a narrow box, you're limiting what our true potential is.
Yeah.
And so the old school mediumship is really is becoming outdated, and it's more about addressing a person on that full wholeness of their psychic self, their spiritual body, along with the physical body, along with the mental body, all of that, you
Mhm.
know, um, addressing it all and bringing forth the healing assistance in a unique manner that is for that particular soul. The evidence lists that used to be in such demand, people still, when it comes to mediumship, I do feel people want the evidence, but that
Mhm.
evidence has to change in a way that is so deeply connected with your person that you're reading for. I mean, that person has to feel the presence of your loved one there. And if it's not there, and there's all these things, and that poor person sitting in front of you is like, I can't take that.
Yeah.
I can't take none of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you'll know the difference when you're truly in line with that other soul, is that person in front of you is going to feel it. You're going to feel this thing. And I know what you mean by that, right?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
probably have had that before. So,
I agree with Megan that when she says we're healers, because when we put labels on mediumship or Reiki or whatever it is, we're just saying one of the things, specific things. But
mhm.
in reality, any person that goes to a healer or a psychic or medium, they are seeking help and healing. Even the ones that are looking for future events, well, they're really need help with healing their present, I guess, or even their past, because that causes them to be anxious. And so I really agree that healing, like you said, it's just like putting all that light in a little box is just not,
Mhm.
it's not a good thing. It
No,
goes
it doesn't work.
beyond.
Yeah, light doesn't go in a box. Light is expansive, that, infinite, and so to try to do that is so limiting. Um, and, you know, I, uh, I do feel and see another new age coming along. You know what I mean? With all of this, with the spiritual work. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know in my lifetime that I'll experience it to its greater depth or not, but I'm grateful for the time I'm in now, because it has enriched my life here in this lifetime so much already.
Is there anything that you would like for people to remember and maybe help them awaken themselves, or something that, an advice you would have loved to receive 10 years ago?
Mhm. Gosh, the advice I would have loved to receive like 40 years ago was, just learn to live an intuitive life. Learn to trust your intuition, your gut feeling, the inner voice, and tap into that and trust it. That is at the very least where I think we can start for those who are new to spiritualism, or they're wondering, there's more to life than this, or why did this happen? Why did this weird thing happen? It's really just tuning in to your intuition, your intuitive self, and acting on it. Because when you don't act on it, it goes away. And then just chaos takes over, the chaos of everyday life. We're going to have challenges, and life has its challenges, and we have our ups and downs, and it's not all this delicious box of cherries, as we both all know.
Yeah.
But the intuitive self can definitely help you to overcome all the challenges that come our way, and to be able to deal and learn from them. So that's what my advice, just learn, just accept the intuitive part of you and act on it.
That was beautifully said. And I like the part where you said act on it, because so many times I've heard people say, oh, well, I'm intuitive too, or they'll tell me different experiences, but they're not acting on it. And then I say that all the time. I'm like, you need to start acknowledging it. Acknowledge that, that feeling that you had, that instinct that you have. But so many times we just push it down and push it down and we bury it because and sometimes it's maybe childhood, society definitely just telling us that we're wrong, or that that's not right, or be like a lady and keep your mouth shut, or different things like that. So that's great advice to lean into the intuition, not just acknowledge it, but to act on it. So
And not be afraid of the outcome, because outcome might not always be happy and cheery. It could lead you into something that needs to happen before everything becomes happy and cheery. So just not be afraid of the outcome, and trust in yourself.
And where can people find you?
Well, they can find me at Deanna-Davis .com, and they can also contact me through info at Deanna-Davis, and that's where they can find me.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deanna. And we will make sure to have your website posted with the podcast episode. We appreciate you joining us and sharing all your knowledge about body coding, emotional coding. So go out there and book a session with Deanna. I can tell you from firsthand experience, I could physically feel the emotions and the blockages being released. And it made me go back for more. So thank
So,
you. Thank
well, thank you so much for this interview. It was a lot of
you.
fun. I sure
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being part of today's Quantum Quest. We hope this conversation awakens something new within you, a spark, a question, a remembering. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, keep exploring with an open mind and an open heart. Bye for now.